You're now listening to D&D live on demand. What up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. As always, you got your man DH in the building, and of course, the friend of the program, the co-host of the program, the OG of the program because he's older than me. We got Dee Middy in the building. Dee Middy, what up, bro?
Feeling good, feeling great, man. How are you, man? How was your New Year's, man?
Man, New Year's was great. Listen, guys, we are recording on New Year's Day because the New Year's Eve festivities went a little overboard. So we had to push recording back. We're recording right here before the game, but everything was smooth. Everything was good. Dee Middy, how about you, man?
Man, trust me, being around family is always great for the holidays.
Yes, it is. Yes, indeed. And because y'all are family, we appreciate you tuning in, of course, to another episode. Of course, if you are here, you are a friend and a family member of the program. So do us a favor. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast. And if you feel so inclined to leave us a 5-star review, you can get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. Of course, thank you once again. Happy 2023 to you, and welcome to a new year of content from the brothers.
Thank you. We appreciate you, man.
Yes, indeed. And as we say that, now we have to get into the real part of the program. All the fun, all the fun topics are over. This is where
some of the banter, you know.
Yes, this is where we get down to the nitty gritty. And before we get into this week's contest against the Browns, we're going to talk about the loss that we took to the 49ers out west, 37-20. Dee Middy, let's get your initial thoughts on this game.
Did we not see it coming? I think both of us was ye of little faith, and I feel like I might have been hitting on something. So maybe if I was a little bit more optimistic, we might have won because I knew it was a time that Taylor Heineke was going to give the reins, and Ron as well, give the reins back to Carson Wentz. And as I said, that defense was going to ramsack him, and they came and saw and conquered. But you know what? They was putting up a good fight, but it was just not enough for that vaunted defense and that stable Kyle Shanahan offense.
I know we were kind of I think we were kind of in the middle as far as how we thought the team would fare against the 49ers, because, you know, the last time we felt this overpowered before the game started was Philly, and I was the opposite. You were optimistic that we could get the job done, and I wasn't. And then I kind of flipped courses. I was like, it can happen. And early on, I realized that this San Francisco 49ers team is very good. They're coached very well. They call great plays, which is something that we don't do very well here consistently. Let's say that. Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers have proven on a week-to-week basis that they will be the team to beat in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think Philly has shown a lot of flaws, even with their 13-2, 14-2.
13-2. Us in Dallas.
Yeah.
2 losses.
So with their 2 losses, you've seen a lot in them, and you've seen some close games. You see how they can get beaten. Nobody's really scared of Minnesota, but you still got to watch out for them. Dallas can score a bunch of points.
I don't know what team will show up in the playoffs.
Exactly. Not scared of the Giants at all. They'll have an early exit, in my opinion. But the 49ers really look like the team of the NFC. And to go out west, and to keep it close the first half. It was 7-1 at halftime.
Yeah, and that was the thing. You know, I think they went touchdown for touchdown in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And then, you know, it started to they was taking the punches. They was rope-a-dope, you know, with us for a while, if I must use an Ali term. And then they took over. You know, George Kittle is him. Let me just put it that way. He is him.
And Dee Middy, with that, you kind of see how the Commanders can fare against a good team when they have good cohesion with their lineup and play calling.
Absolutely.
Going in 7-7 at halftime really said a lot about the team. You know what I mean? And then without big plays from San Francisco, because you got to think they had a lot of long touchdowns. The Ray McLeod reverse touchdown.
That was like 60 plus yards, right?
71 yards. The Kittle long pass receptions. Without those plays, this is a different ball game for the Commanders. And I think this really gave a glimpse into how the Commanders could fare if they make the playoffs, which we'll
Yeah,
get into
yes.
later down the line. But my final thoughts about the 49ers game. I mean, look, nobody really expected them to win. Um, we saw a few good positive things from the team, but this is going into an overarching theme with the team is
Mhm.
that they have to play consistently and they cannot give up the big plays against these teams, because if you do that, it's not going to work out well for you.
No, no. True indeed, man. Everything you just said, man, really hit home in regards to how the game played out and what the Commanders need to do going forward if they're going to do to do.
And with the going forward aspect, late in the game, they pulled Taylor Heineke after really two bad possessions, which weren't
Yeah,
all his fault, in my opinion. And
yeah.
I'll go into that.
To be honest, no.
Yes. He had two, and we'll just call it, he had two turnovers, back-to-back possessions. One was a fumble, a blindside fumble that he got hit and fumbled the ball, which he's had a lot of recently off one particular side. But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
In the following possession, he was throwing a check down to B Rob and literally threw it 3 yards to the left of B Rob.
Mm.
I don't know if
Tre'Davious Ward was there for the gift wrapping.
that was a miscommunication. I don't know if B Rob was supposed to be somewhere else or if it was just a bad ball, which something Taylor Heineke has been known for the past few weeks. Regardless of what it was, to give an opportunity to try to add points and try to see what you have going forward. Ron
Right.
Rivera and crew pulled Taylor Heineke out and inserted Carson Wentz, who led a scoring drive late to Curtis Samuel for a touchdown. And you look at how Wentz played on that drive. I mean, he looked comfortable. He stood tall in the pocket.
Mhm.
Um, he made some good throws. Even the touchdown pass he made to Curtis was a very nice throw. And led the Commanders down to score to get them their final score of the game. Dee Middy, what was your thoughts when Heineke was taken out and Carson Wentz was entered into the game?
I predicted it, bro, because I just felt like that vaunted stifling defense of San Francisco was going to bring Taylor Heineke and their offense to a humbling stop. And Carson came in, like you said, the throws he made, even the Patrick Mahomes escapability throw he made, the outlet pass, I think it was Jonathan Williams. Um, you know, he was trying to get the ball out quick, and he did a good job of it. And I feel like you saying, or like you just said, Ron and company and this team needs to see, and Wentz himself needs to see what this investment really is, because that sample size, 6 games that he had, was honestly, in it was a sample size. You can't really assess a Carson Wentz tenure with this team off of 6 games. They didn't do it with Heineke, you know, and for me to open up this offense and still be a to still have the same identity, but open it up to some degree. That's what you want Wentz for. That was the purpose you brought him in here for your playbook not to be condensed, for your weapons not to feel like they're not a part of the game plan. Was to have a Carson Wentz in the under center to be able to put up more points, so your defense wouldn't have to do as much when you get down to the later parts of the game.
In that drive, D Middy, it was a 13 play drive, 82 yards, took 3 minutes and 51 seconds off the clock. Um, I mean, I heard some criticism of, well, Carson, was dinking and dunking down the field. Well, so if he's open, get it to him. I think that's been the criticism between him and Heineke. Heineke,
But that's what Heineke was doing for a while,
he was.
and
And
then in certain parts of the game they took shots. I think the previous week against the Giants game, they did some kind of, they throwing some kind of wrinkle plays where they was trying to throw downfield to Diame, and in this San Francisco game they was trying to, you know, show if Car- I mean excuse me show if Taylor Heineke can throw it down the field.
yeah, and with this on that drive, right? And then here's the difference between him and Heineke, Wentz and Heineke, in my opinion, is that when there is a safe check down available, Wentz would take it. Other situations, Heineke wouldn't. He would force the ball into into those types of throws that we mentioned here on the podcast,
Yeah.
where he doesn't have to. And I think that's what they like towards that on that drive, is where he took what the defense gave him and tried to work the ball downfield to get them to get them in scoring position. And this is something that we have been talking about that we would like to see. Carson Wentz was cleared and is healthy to play, and I think it was I think Taylor Heineke was gonna have to have a ridiculous type game
Oh yeah.
for Carson not to come back,
Oh
right?
yeah.
He was gonna have a game where he would
Mistake free.
mistake free.
Literally mistake free, because giving up a fumble or throwing an interception in a crucial part of the game, or giving that 49ers team any chance of just putting their foot on our neck, yeah, you knew that it was going to be
Mis-
one of those moments.
Oh, look, I mean, and we know he's, in my opinion, and I don't want to let me back up. I don't want this to be a bash Heineke fest because
No, 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 no,
we
no,
had
no.
those on previous weeks, and I've never apologized for that. But in this situation, he just had a couple bad plays compounded. And I mentioned this on All Burgundy Go Everything, which I appeared on last week, that what Heineke does is that all his stuff is compounded into like one section of the game. So even if he does have a good game, his stuff looks terrible because it's 2 and 3 turnovers back to back with bad passes and bad plays.
Or
So
just 2 or 3 possessions that are not putting the team in scoring position or in a winning position.
exactly. And you can't have that. So it was time, in my opinion. And like we mentioned earlier with the investment aspect of it, um, I think they want to see what Carson Wentz can do in this situation where they have 2 games to go and they have to, win the game. And we're going to get to that with the Browns real quick as well. Just want to mention, bro, and this is off topic. We didn't even talk about this beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Chase Young coming back this past week was a big boost and a big bonus to the team. Real quick thoughts on Chase Young playing last week against the 49ers.
Man, shout out and kudos to Chase Young and the medical staff and people that was working with him and the
Yes,
trainers. Kudos to Ron and company going with the, as I call, the on ice approach, because they made sure that when he returned, that they could get a barometer of him for their first few plays, which they're professionals. They understand what's going on. They know more than we do about the game, and they made it as to where he came back. It looked like, to me, he was feeling good. And I won't say mid-season form, but for him, it looked like, okay, first game of the season for me. And that's what I got. In totality, him having a pass breakup, him, setting the edge, and being able to rush up field in certain plays to move to force, other, players to eat. I seen that. I seen it. I seen those elements. And for a D lineman to have a pass breakup, not saying all D linemen don't ever get one or don't attempt to get one, but for him to get one, and then also it could have, changed the course of the game and all the other elements of a pass rusher that he gave you and a defensive end that he gave you. Yeah, I think he's ready. This game, I feel like going into this Cleveland game, we got a piece. We got a piece to the puzzle that can help make it look pretty. If I should say.
absolutely, man. I'm I was real positive about Chase Young, and I think this really spoke to everybody that's been criticizing him about not coming back from a very serious
And
injury.
criticizing the decision makers.
Yes, criticizing the decision makers as if they don't know what they're talking about, and the medical experts as if they don't know what they're talking about. I'm glad they slow walk this as long as possible. He looks healthy. He looks ready. He doesn't look like he's struggling. I don't know what the treatment was like for him this week, because now you kind of that's a big part of the injury aspect too, is how you
Mm-hmm.
recover. And hopefully we'll get some insight on that going forward. But I mean, just it was ridiculous at some point in time, like just to hear some of these fans with these wild takes about what they should do with Chase Young and him not being ready. Like, I'm like, bruh, I don't think, and I seriously, and I said this, and not to be, an a-hole, but I was just like, none of y'all have, some of y'all have never played competitive sports. Some of y'all have never had a serious injury. Some of y'all don't
Period.
even understand what it takes back. Let me tell you something. I
Period.
pulled my hamstring coaching a football game and was injured for 3 weeks. Pulled my hamstring, sprained my knee. I pulled, and you saw it. You saw the pictures. I pulled my hamstring coaching a game, and sprained my left knee. I had to wear a knee brace and go to treatment for that. I didn't
Yeah.
tear. I didn't break
Absolutely.
anything. I was down for 3 weeks. Was walking crazy and walking wild. This man tore his ACL and messed up his patella, and he's just supposed to pop back in and just be 100% instantly.
Come on,
If
man.
he's not, we supposed to just move on from him. Like, are you real? Are you real
And
life?
and and those of us on the other end of the spectrum, and I'm not going to fly along a long plane. For those of us on the other end of the spectrum that see it as they are humans, just like us, even though they eat differently and they work out differently and a different condition than we are, we understand that they are still humans who bleed and breathe just like we do. And let's not push them to any limits that's unattainable, because in reality there are limits that are unattainable.
Absolutely, man. And even with that, like, the saying goes, they wear pants just like me, but some of their pants just cost a little more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Let's
that's
just
really
be
what it
real.
is. You know what I mean? But I'm glad, I'll say this and we'll land this plane. I'm glad Chase Young is back. I'm glad he looks healthy. I'm glad he's back in the fold. And I think he can be a true, for lack of better words, disruptor for these last 2 weeks and hopefully going into the playoffs. And I think that will
Absolutely.
help us going forward. So speaking of the playoffs, in order to get into the playoffs, and this is the reason why we're here this week, it's week 17 coming up against the Cleveland Browns. So we're at the beginning of the season. We didn't know we didn't know when Deshaun Watson would be playing or what type of Browns team we would be seeing at this time. But we're seeing a 6-9 Browns team head over to FedEx Field this in about 2.5, 3 hours, to take on our Washington Commanders, who are 7-1.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns bring a 10th ranked offense, which is sixth in rushing and 22nd in passing, and a fifth ranked defense to go against our 19th ranked offense, with our fourth ranked defense, who's 19th in passing and 13th in rushing. Dee Middy, the game against the Cleveland Browns is a must win.
And it
How do you
is.
see us faring against the Cleveland Browns today at FedEx Field?
I feel like this is one of those chances where when you see the wager line, and you see you watching your ESPNs and NFL networks, and you see them talking about, other teams for that matter, the Packers, the Lions, and possibly the Seahawks making the playoffs over Washington. You start to think like this is a game. It's a must win, and I feel like they have this team should have that mentality, and us faring against them. I feel like we have the opportunity to actually put a team away. Even though, yes, they are led by Deshaun Watson, who's a very dynamic quarterback, who's right now he's getting his feet under him. Similar to Chase Young, this is not mid-season form, or going to the playoffs form for him. This is his fourth game, I believe,
Yeah.
and
So,
and you're getting somebody who's who's not really who's not really in the form where he could take over a game, if you should say, and hopefully Washington doesn't give him that chance to. So with all that being said, with matchups concerned, we have some players down in our DB in the DB room, and you still have that D line. This team should be able to pull out a win that's close. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't win, but it's going to be close.
I mean, D Mitty, you look at some of the teams that we've beaten this year: the Phillies, the Green Bay Packers, the coming close to beating um,
The
Minnesota.
Minnesota, mm-hmm.
And you just look at some of these games, and you just feel like if there was ever a time where you need to will yourself to a win, this is the game. And I don't really know if there's a bunch of I don't really know if there's a lot of analysis that's needed for this game. We know
Mm-hmm.
what you do: run the football. With Carson Wentz starting, you have the over the top stuff open. Carson, just protect the ball. Protect the ball, run the football, get out of there. I don't care if it's a 3-0 win. I don't care if it's 7-6. I don't care if it's 50-40. Like, just get a win. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Extend your playoff life. But I'm just gonna go right into it because I don't think it's enough analysis that's needed. Um, will
True.
the Commanders make the playoffs? And I say this, and I'm gonna go full screen on me because I have to talk to the team real quick. Dee Middy and everybody out there, I want you guys to know that these are situations where you find out what your team really is. You find out who your team really is. And I mentioned this early this week. If you need any additional motivation to play this game, you're in the wrong business. Get out. As a fan, if you need any additional motivation to watch this game and cheer hard, cheer louder, you're watching the wrong sport. I heard someone mention that well, guys just play differently for Heineke. I'm like, so do you believe that with a chance to get to the playoffs and get to the tournament, and they're not going to play hard or harder for Carson Wentz because they want to win? Guys want to win. This is not one of those times for the team I'm talking to now. This is not one of those times to, falter. This is not one of the times to be inconsistent, Scott Turner. This is the time to go to your home and run the football and beat the Cleveland Browns, the 6-win Cleveland Browns, who's looking to spoil your playoff hopes. This is the time when you go and you beat them. Deshaun Watson has had a rough, shaky start these past couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He don't get back on track this week. You dominate him. Yeah, he might get a few plays, but you overtake and you dominate him. This is a game when if you get him down, like Doc say, you put your foot on the neck and crush the windpipe. That's a Doc line, right? This is the week that you do it. This is the time when you shut up some of your doubters, you shut up some of your haters, and specifically for Carson Wentz, this is the time when you rewrite your narrative. You tell the world that I am a good quarterback, that I should be the starting quarterback of the Commanders going forward, and that I still got it. And that for all you doubters, all you haters, you have to wait another term to write me off because now I'm here and I'm here to stay. I'm gonna do what we got to do to get us to the playoffs, and it starts with the win against Cleveland. Dee Middy. That's how I feel about the Commanders, and this is the game that they have to win in order to get to the playoffs.
I love it, bro. I love it, bro. You really hit on some solid points there, man. And will the Commanders make the playoffs? They have to win regardless of anyone else's outcome because that's the playoff predictor and as the numbers show. If Washington wins and the Seattle's, Detroit's, and Green Bay's of the world, and they win, we still in. You're still in. So just do your job. Simply put, man.
Man, looking at some of the New York Times has a predictor that shows the breakdown of what happens for the Commanders. The Commanders are the last in the division, but still have a path to the postseason. Realistically, they must win their remaining games, but they could clinch a berth this week with a win and losses by the Lions, Seahawks, and Packers. Now, granted, that's a lot to happen, but last week, all those teams lost except Green Bay. Green Bay won. Um, but it was the Giants, us, Lions, and Seahawks who lost.
Yeah.
But if they get a win this week, you're one step closer. Of course, if they win this week and and against Dallas, they will get in. They have a 100% chance to make the playoffs. They will get in, and will finish with a 9-7-1 record. But this is where it just goes down to like, bro, you either put up or shut up, or whatever. Say you need to nut up and figure out what type of team you are. You have
Get,
everything in front of you, and you got to get it.
get off the pot of poop, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. And it just is what it is. I mean, yeah, you get in with help. Okay, cool. But help yourself,
There
right?
you go. There
Because
you go.
if you can't help yourself and you find a backdoor the way to get in, I have no faith in you once getting in. It's a wasted spot. Now, granted, yes, in the grand scheme of thing, yes, you made the playoffs, cool. But if you can't get in on your own, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and not do it the way it's supposed to be done, then what's the point?
And
You know,
which what you saying really speaks to a barometer check. Does this win or loss put any type of different perception on Ron's tenure? If this Washington Commanders team loses to Cleveland and allows other teams to skip them in the playoffs because they can't control their own destiny, what does that speak to the coach? What does that speak to the leaders in the building?
Dee Middy, if Ron Rivera and company go 0-4-1 to close the season, you have to really, and I've never been a proponent of this. I've liked Ron Rivera in his tenure here,
Yeah,
but he's been, if we're being honest, he's been a mid-tier coach who's coached
yeah,
the team to a mid-level of wins, and you're at your 3-year point that you said your rebuild is going to take, and you're not going up, you're plateauing. So if they somehow find a way to trick this up and go 0-4-1, you really have to question the rest of the direction for the franchise because it's not going to cut it. That's not good enough by other team standards. That wouldn't allow another coach to keep a job. It wouldn't,
man.
especially
Listen,
as a coach.
man, listen to that record to end the season in 5 games, bro. The and one part of it, it shows to me that Ron Rivera's tenure here and the 3-year plan that he spoke of, or how some people just in football people and sports fans in general say, into a tenure of a coach, they may not get the ball rolling until maybe year 2 or year 3. And for that matter, you have to take this game as not necessarily being a Super Bowl, and that's one thing I want to put out there. Me and my guy DH are saying this isn't the Commander Super Bowl. This is a putting your foot in the ground statement. This is a you know poking your chest out type of game that you have to do to show your peers that, hey, we mean business. Because let's just say this season is the end of the season is going into uh, a possible regime change for ownership.
Ain't no possible. It is happening.
The way that they're putting the writings on the big boards and what have you, and the newspapers is like it's a process almost, or they're discussing it, but we all know what's going on.
Exactly. We know what's happening. And D Mitty, I'll go back to even the scenarios that we mentioned. I mean, you look at the teams that we talked about has have to lose. Those teams could easily get 3 wins this week. I mean, the Lions have a home game against the Bears. The Seattle Seahawks have a home game against the Jets, and the
Yep,
Packers have a home game against the Vikings.
Vikings. Yeah.
Right? Each of those teams could possibly win those games,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put yourself out of the mix. I mean, literally, this is how you do it though. You win the games and get out the way. If you win today,
Right.
um, your chances, even with regardless of what everybody else is doing, your chances go up to a 54% chance to get in. And then you got Dallas, who I think may rest some guys, but they're still going to try to win. But
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is going to limp into the playoffs. They had some key injuries happen this past Thursday, so I think they might rest. But it'll come down to literally next week, and how you perform next week to get
Yeah.
you in the playoffs. And of course, you take care of business in both weeks, you got 100%, a 99% chance to get in.
There you go.
But it doesn't start until today. And I'll say
Exactly.
this, D-Mitty, just even back to what I was saying previously, bro. This is an indictment on the front office if you can't get it done. If
Mm-hmm.
you cannot find a way to get into the playoffs when you had everything in front of you going into your bye week, the late bye week in week 14, I mean, it's a lot. It's now granted, I didn't expect them to beat the 49ers. I did expect them to beat the Giants. They
Yeah.
lost to the Giants by 8, with some could say questionable calls at the end of the game. But if you do your job, it doesn't come to that. And now you're in a
Say
must
that.
game against Cleveland, where Cleveland is just playing like I said, bro. Deshaun Watson has it in him. If he somehow finds a way to just be the old Deshaun Watson, the Houston Deshaun Watson, it might be a wrap.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And if they lose today, bro, it's a wrap.
Because it's no way that you lose and then allow the other teams to win, because there's no, like, you can't expect for the other teams to lose out for you to make the playoffs. This is a situation where the leaders on this team, the actual players, the John Allens, the Terry McLaurins, the Chase Youngs, because to be honest, when Chase Young wasn't on the field, he was doing his best to be the best teammate possible. Some team outsiders and people may look at that like, oh, he was a cheerleader the whole time. He should have just, shouldn't have came back. No, he was being a great teammate because he was beside the coaching staff, if you watch the games, you seen that he was there, and I'm pretty sure he was doing more than just that during the week when he could work out with the team and be around the team once he got activated, and any other thing when it came to probably looking at film, because I trust these guys were being students of the game.
Dee Middy, I'm gonna say this, bro, and I don't think this is a wild take. I'm just gonna say this:
Mm-hmm.
if the Commanders lose today,
Mm-hmm.
somebody has to get fired.
Yeah.
I don't think one of them will get fired, but somebody has to get fired because, like I said,
it'll be the coordinators, bro. I think if they lose this game, I think
it'll be the offensive coordinator too.
I believe that it'll be a situation where Ron's hand will be forced to show that he'll need some different pieces around him to help get this team the way he wants it to be, and it'll be a shame, but hey, that's how the business is, man.
And I think Ron will come under fire, especially because Carson's been available since the Giants week, correct?
Correct. So that's been what, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks coming out of the bye. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you what. That I told you that quarterback decision was questionable anyway. The thing about it was Carson Wentz is listed, and then we talked about this week. They were like, Taylor Heinicke is not the starter. Yeah, he is. When you get selected over the guy that you brought in to be the starting quarterback is healthy and you don't choose him, Taylor Heinicke is the starter.
Come on, man.
I'm just going to say that point blank period.
That whole hot hand narrative, to me,
it wasn't hot. It wasn't it wasn't like Heinicke was dealing. It wasn't like Heinicke was throwing for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and was like willing and dealing. He was doing mid-level quarterback stuff, and Ron tried to sell us that, because
he sold some of us.
He definitely did, but trying to sell us that because he was the leader of the team and blah 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 blah, like he was the one that was getting us these dubs when he wasn't. He was the reason we were losing half these games.
I'm pretty sure even the Heinicke fans can say at the end of the plays that he was making, whether it was running out of the pocket, whether it was a pass thrown, the guys around him made those plays happen, especially the Curtis Samuels and Terry McLaurin's of the world made it happen for.
And then even with that, Middy, like it wasn't like the plays they were making were spectacular plays, but he was still throwing for 220 yards. Like I said, it was really low end. So the fact that Ron was still riding with him, woo woo woo, okay, I get it, whatever. But the fact that he loses those games, that's on you. So pretty now much. Wentz has the opportunity to come in and be like, I told y'all should have played me 2 games ago. And if he comes back and we win, and went out, like he could definitely have an argument that the playoff spot could have been locked up 2 weeks ago.
Yes, absolutely.
If he'd been in the game. And I think, and I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna sound terrible. You can thumbs down if you want. You can DM me. I don't care. I never want to see Taylor Heinicke in a Commanders jersey again. I don't, because we've seen him for 20 plus games.
Hold on, bro. You about to get at it. They're gonna at you, bro. They're gonna at you with that, man. Come on, bro.
DM me.
The Twitter gangsters in the Commanders world, they coming at you, bro.
Look, the hashtag breaking command. DM me. I don't care.
And I don't know no Twitter gangsters in the Commanders group. This was just a joke, people. Take that lightly.
Find someone who cares, because I don't. Okay. Taylor Heinicke should not suit up as a quarterback with us going forward. You've seen it for 20 plus games.
So can I combat that, bro? If you're going into next season, I'm not trying to push let's look into the future narrative. If you're looking at what they do have in that quarterback room and what you look at for what you're looking at as success for next season, him being here makes perfect sense for the growth of Sam Howell for a couple reasons. For one, for me being a mentor, and 2, having some
Taylor,
both, okay, to push Sam Howell into being the future quarterback. Because let's just be honest, I say that to say Howell on a rookie contract as a 5th round quarterback may have the ability to push those guys out the door, but he wouldn't, and push them to backup status, being the young guy who who the Commanders can build around, and still be able to pay the guys that's around him for him to be the trailer and the team be the truck, pulling the team to victories. And I say that to say I believe Heineke should be there as that insurance valve, that assurance of if Howard goes down or Wentz goes down, you have your backup. But for the sake of saying that he's a savior, he's not. For the sake of saying that Heineke was the hot hand during that seven, what was the record after Wentz went down?
I think it was like seven games, like 5-2 or something like that. I don't know.
So 5-2-1, I believe, is the record since, or
Eight,
5-3, something 5-3-1 or something like that.
something.
I could be wrong. It's 5 wins and a tie and a few losses. Heineke was not, as you said, he was not the pendulum that swung for those victories. He was not that dude.
And Middy, let me just tell you this, bro. I love you, but there's nothing you said that's changing my mind. But look,
I
check this out.
tried. Because some of the things you said make sense, but I mean, as far as the whole backup part of it, the whole helping your young guy get ready, make that part to me make sense.
Here is how I feel about this. Okay, I feel as though the quarterback situation next year is going to be determined by what happens in these last 2 games. If Carson Wentz plays well in these last 2 games, this is my quarterback room next year. Carson at the 1, Howell at the 2, and somebody new at the 3. Okay, point blank and period.
I wouldn't be disappointed with that. So let me just put that out there for the fans and the friends who's watching.
Yeah.
And listening. I feel like Carson should return and needs to return. Howell is definitely going to be here. And if you do not bring back Heineke and you go with a Ricky or even another, retread backup guy, the Howell and Wentz should be your guys who are fighting to keep this team going into victories, going into games.
Yes. And the reason I'm so adamant about not keeping Heineke here, this is the reason why. And I'll say this, and this, I may be talking for myself, but I'll say it. 20 plus games, we've seen what he can do. In 20 plus games, we've seen what he can't do. In 20 plus games, I'm not confident with what he can do in an extended basis because you've seen him both years in an extended basis. Okay. Even for the times that he's been in the extended basis, it's never been anything solid. It's never been anything where people don't understand. Yeah, a backup quarterback is a backup quarterback, but the backup quarterback technically should be able to be a starter when they get in. If he's not good enough to be a starter consistently and make the starter level throws, then he does not need to be here. The idea that he knows the offense, does he? Because the offense had to change when he came in. Okay. The idea that he can
what offense he does know.
Right. The idea that he should be able to perform in this offense and make the throws. What throws he made that wasn't assisted by the great wide receivers that we have here?
Say that. So as weeks go on and games go on, you have always, bro, led me to believe, yeah, Heineke is not the guy. If he doesn't come back, it won't be any dirt off the shoulder. It won't be any tears shedded for him. So I agree with you. But I just look at it. I still have that inkling of
Understood.
let's not keep paying the same guys. Let's kind of let's kind of keep things stable. Let's keep this type of thing stable because the quarterback room is important.
Here's my final point with that, and we'll move on. The additional reason that I do not want him here next year is because that with him here, there is always the glimmer of hope that he's supposed to be the guy, and he's not. Okay, I've seen enough football in my 37 years of existence, been in meeting rooms with quarterbacks, been in meeting rooms with NFL players and defenders, and have watched film with NFL players who will tell you the same thing that I'm telling you. I'm not breaking any news. He's not the guy. As long as he's here, they're going to pretend like he's supposed to be the starter. All he needs an opportunity where he had an opportunity in 20 plus games and did do nothing with it. Okay. I'm done. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see him no more. I wish him the best. He seems like a great guy. That's why people like him. But as far as for his quarterback play and ability, if we don't move on from him, even in the backup role, he'll always be a problem. It'll always be a question. And Ron Rivera is almost close to being attached to Taylor Heineke going forward. So that's why I'm done with them. Regardless of what happens these last 2 games, I'm done with them. I'm really pulling for Carson to really come out these last 2 weeks and throw for like 800 yards, 400 in each game, and like 8 touchdowns.
I would love it. I would love to see that, man, because deep down inside, I mean, I am a Wentz fan. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, because when he was with the Eagles for those years, I hated playing against.
You would think Carson Wentz has done something devious to a family member, to some
Yeah.
of the people.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh,
hate that he gets
especially
when if you ask, he's played 6 games here. 6.
and people treat him like he's been here for 6 years and hasn't put out anything. But you're right, man, because it's some journalists in the local area in the DMV who, let's just say it, they think that the whole quarterback room is ish, and they would much rather have. I don't know. It seems like some of these guys, like if it's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you don't need it, don't want it. You're not going to hit that out the park every time as far as getting those guys. And I say that to say, man, Wentz, give him time, bro. Give him time to be able to show you whether or not he's the right decision, because with the talent he has around him, just like we've been saying and alluding to, when you have a quarterback who has the pieces around him, whether it's Tom Brady or Trent Dilfer, you can see they'll win if you just put the right pieces around them. And Wentz hasn't been given the opportunity here in Commanders land, for that matter, as far as the Colts, his previous stop, and the Eagles before that. He did. He had either a full season or almost a good snapshot of what he can do for you, but he hasn't shown this to me, Washington, what he can do for them yet. He hasn't proven to me what Wentz I know. I don't know what Wentz we have right now, if I can say that. I don't know which Wentz we have in the building.
Got you. Well, I know what we do have. We have enough time for our final segment that we love to call Let's Get Wild. All right, Dee Middy, I'm gonna start this week.
I feel it, bro.
Listen to me. I'm getting wild this week. And I'm getting wild because I'm saying the Commanders are going to score 43 points this week. The Commanders are going to score 43. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know when, but they're going to score 43 points this week. And the reason I say 43 is because that number is the first number that came in my head that's plus 40. Okay? They're going to score 43 points this week. And let me tell you what's going to happen. Carson Wentz is going to come out. He's going to come out and throw for 397 yards and 4 touchdowns. And they're going to dominate the Cleveland Browns. The reason I'm saying this because I truly believe.
My mic is hot. Oh my God, you're cooking over there, boy. Keep going.
As somebody who believes in Carson Wentz, I believe that Carson Wentz, this is his time to rewrite his narrative and go and show the world why he is the man that he is. And Carson Wentz will go out there and get the job done this week against Cleveland. Dee Middy, what you got?
Well, yeah, Macho Man shows up once again this week, brother, because we got them Cleveland Browns coming to the FedEx, brother. Oh, yeah. We got the fun. We got that Deshaun Watson coming in the building. Oh, yeah, that defense, man, they better be ready. Oh, yeah. Hey, man, that Chase Young, we just talked about that Predator. Pray on that offensive line, man. Oh, yeah. And those DBs that's coming in, we don't have St. Juice this week. Oh my God, man! If we do, we don't have man. Cam Curry, oh, it's okay. We got Defoe in the building. Oh yeah, Defoe showing what you got, man. Take that passing game, man, and eat it and chew it and spit it out, and let that Cleveland Browns fan base know, yeah, that defense ain't nothing to play with. Jonathan Allen, man, I see you. Number 93, the charitable, the real beast. There in that room with Deron Payne. Oh yeah, I need you guys to eat. I need you to eat all game. Oh yeah. I need you to get dirty with Ridgeway, man. Ridgeway. We don't need no penalties, man. We don't need those plays, bro. What we need out of you, Ridgeway, we need some sacks out of you, man. So I'm calling it right now. I got my hot take for number 91, John Ridgeway. Oh yeah. the second half is game. Oh yeah. For you betters, put it in right now if you can. Oh yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That was Let's Get Wild. D Mitty, you remember back in the old wrestling when me and Yoshi used to do the promos in the background? That's all wrestlers like when they wasn't talking, they was standing like this.
Bro, we was just watching a documentary on Ric Flair last night, bro, and
Loved
just
it.
seeing those old clips and bringing back. Now, for me, it was nostalgic. I knew every wrestler. My wife was like, "Oh, I forgot about him. Oh, I forgot about him. Oh, you remember him?" And I was just, and like you said, Mr. Perfect, when he was a student for Ric Flair, and man, Batista and them boys, they'd be standing back there looking big and rough. Like, man, hold on, I need to get like they standing back there, him and Randy Orton band. Oh my God! I'm like, yeah, man. The boys, it was a scene. It was a scene to be seen.
Stupid man. All right, D Mitty, let's get into the final thoughts this week, man. D Mitty, final thoughts for this week's episode where the Commanders take on the Cleveland Browns. What you got?
My final thoughts for this week is that this team will win, must win, and can win. And I feel like this will be a stamp into this tenure for Ron Rivera's era, and that this fan base will have something to not only being on Twitter, man. This fan base has really shown me how loyal we can be, how loyal people can be in general. But for the sake of this Breaking Command podcast and the question you're asking, I feel like this week, this win, how they will put the fan base in the Washington Commanders Nation in a better mood. I feel it. I just feel like we're in the playoffs. We're 8-7-1, and we going into Dallas week. We're gonna go into Dallas week with our chin up and our chest out, and as a team going into the playoffs, because when you win, you win. And I feel like this is the right time for this Washington Commanders organization and team to show their fans, we hear you.
Here's my final thoughts. I'll say this. If there was ever a time where a playoff berth was needed, it was this season. With amidst all the things that are going on with the franchise and the organization, this is a way that the team can kind of solidify themselves and say, you know what, regardless of everything else that's going on, we're here to do our job, and our job is to win a Super Bowl. But before we can win a Super Bowl, we have to get into the playoffs,
There you
and
go.
you have to do that. This is a way that Ron can shut up everybody who's criticizing him. This is a way that Carson Wentz can shut up everybody who's criticizing him. This is a way that the Commanders football organization can say, hey, regardless of what's going on, we're going to play ball. And then I think at the end of the day, this is where you just show what you are. You show if you can do it or if you can't. And you have to play with some will and some want to. And it's literally, there's not too many chances in life where it's directly in front of you and within your reach. And you just have to reach it. It's right there. If you do what you know how to do best, the law of averages say you should win today. You should win today. But you have to do what you do best. We can't get cute, and we have to go out there and dominate. And I think we can, because we've showed in previous situations that when we want to play, we can play. So this has to be one of the weeks where you want to play and get it done, because that's the only way to solidify something is by getting it done today. And D Mitty, with that being said, man, I'm literally sending all love to everyone this year for a happy new year. It's a new year for the Commanders. It's a new year for the Breaking Command podcast.
How you
It's
doing?
gonna
I
be
know how you doing.
yeah, there's gonna be a lot more down the pipe coming. And we're hoping we get a playoff run, because if we get this playoff run, we have a very, 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 very special guest that we're gonna have on the show. But the agreement was that we have to get in the playoffs. They said they will only come on if we make the playoffs. So, Commanders, can y'all help us out? Because we really need these views to go up. But other than that, man, D Mitty, on behalf of you, on behalf of myself, man, happy New Year to everybody checked in and tuned in. And let's go out there and get a dub today for the Commanders.
Thank you to the fans who listen and Commanders. Thank you for giving us a season worth talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And after this week, we got one more episode to go. Maybe more.
Are you gonna spoil it? Don't spoil
I don't know. I'm not gonna spoil it yet. I'm gonna wait till next week, depending on how I feel.
it.
But
There
all
you
right,
go.
y'all. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you once again for checking out the Breaking Command the Breaking Command podcast with, of course, DH and Dee Middy. Of course, make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend. And as we get out of here, Happy New Year. Left hander, who are we?
Is it left hand, right hand? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I got you. I got you.
Hey, let's go Commanders. Let's get it done today against the Browns. Peace and love, everybody.
Let's do it.